kind of pop up as we began the meeting, slowly seeing people coming into the meeting, getting up to the number of 80 and anticipating that a little bit later today will be close to 100 participants that are joining us from across the country in our first ever real kind of convening that's bringing together MESA staff, MESA advisors from middle schools to high schools, to colleges and universities, bringing educators together so that we can share some best practices, and we'll get to kind of hear a little bit about this in a while, but these best practices are coming from our colleagues in Oregon MESA, and I think that there's just a lot that we will have an opportunity to gain from work and that they've been doing for a good number of years now. And that we'll be able to kind of share across the country in hopes that you as MESA advisors at the middle school, high school level, those of you that are overseeing MESA programs at your colleges and universities, that this will be information that state contingents and the state delegations can go ahead and bring back and share within their states, because it's just a rich curriculum that we feel can benefit all of our MESA projects really, but in particular can be very beneficial to our national engineering design competition, as we in this last year have taken on this topic of designing for equity. And so just very, very excited to have everybody here. I wanted to start off with just a land acknowledgement, and I actually was very glad to see that as people were introducing themselves in the chat, this is something that was coming up, right? I have here, I guess I should introduce myself and say that my name is Rudy McCormick. I serve as executive director for Arizona MESA, and Arizona MESA was very fortunate to be able to host a virtual national engineering design competition, and to really then be able to introduce this convening to all of you. At the University of Arizona, we have a land acknowledgement statement, and we know that that is not just for the University of Arizona, right? Many of our institutions, many of our schools sit on the traditional homelands of Indigenous people who have been stewards of this land for time immemorial. So we just want to recognize that and pay gratitude to those individuals, and state that, you know, as institutions and organizations, there is still a lot of work that we can do to pay respect to those people, and also to create spaces that welcome them and allow them to feel valued, especially as we're talking about institutions of higher education. And so again, not just solely for the University of Arizona, but for all of our institutions and organizations across the country, something for us to always recognize, especially as we're getting started on meetings like this that are focused on equity. At this time, I am going to call on a good colleague who serves as president of MESA USA, and that is Mr. Dwight Carr. Dwight, I'd like to kind of introduce you and have you say a few words on behalf of MESA USA.
Thank you, Rudy. Hi, everyone. Welcome. As Rudy said, I'm the current president of MESA USA. I also serve as the executive director for Maryland Math Engineering Science Achievement Program, also known as MESA. So I would like to say welcome to all of our teachers and distinguished guests. Thank you all for taking time from your summers. I know many of you are, said farewell to the kids for the year and have started sipping margaritas and sitting on beaches. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time out and really seeing further development of yourselves as instructors and MESA advisors as really a priority to take time out of your busy schedules to be able to learn more about how you might use Invention Ed as part of your MESA programming. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules for doing that. We hope that you learn more about what's going to be core to the programming that we offer through MESA, which is invention education. It's important work that is connected to the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, as well as the Lemelson Foundation. So we're really excited about this curriculum. We think it's something that's really meaty that you and your kids can sink your teeth into and really enjoy, and will bring how you implement your MESA program to life. My comments are brief, so I'll just ask that you please stay engaged, ask questions when possible, and we hope that you will also be, use a train the trainer model, and will be a champion for invention education in the MESA program in your respective states. So again, thank you, and we depend on you for implementing the MESA program. So, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Really appreciate that. And again, so grateful to all these different representatives from across the states, and then also across different levels coming together, as you're mentioning, to take this back to enrich that opportunity with our students. Oftentimes, I think we talk about STEM identity. I think today we're going to kind of talk about inventor identity a bit. And then, I think even thinking forward and asking ourselves, what if our students left with those two identities, but also left with this identity of being an entrepreneur? And so imagining as we're working with a diverse set of students that are coming oftentimes from underrepresented backgrounds, that if we can have them come into this organization, MESA, as we've had an opportunity to do over these last 50 years of organizational history. Had an opportunity to meet with directors yesterday and hearing about states getting to those 40th, 50th anniversary in California, right? Getting even beyond that in California. And just knowing that this organization has been so dedicated to equity, and what can we do to kind of then put that in front of our students and get excited about what they're gonna create. And really, again, all of this work would not be possible without my colleagues from Oregon MESA. I just want to thank Dr. Tan Zhang, who serves as executive director for Oregon MESA, for agreeing to have her team be able to kind of share all of this knowledge over these next 2 days. It's a very, especially these invention education components that you're going to get to experience over these next 2 days. It's extensive, and we're gonna go over it in 2 days, but there's an opportunity to lay this out in front of your students over an entire semester, over an entire year, really. And so all of that didn't just kind of appear. It is a product of extensive work and extensive research and extensive knowledge, experience, refinement, which is all about that kind of engineering design process, right? That iteration. And so we thank Oregon for all of that work, all of that iteration, and for then bringing that back to us. And we'll have a chance to meet the Oregon team shortly, but wanted to make sure that I gave a special thanks to Oregon MESA and their team. I also wanted to thank our sponsor for the day, the Lemelson Foundation, because really, Lemelson has been so critical to this. MESA USA received some funding from the Lemelson Foundation, and we've had an opportunity over a little bit more than the last year, especially in this pandemic, to be able to see this work through, and to be able to, with the end result being really kind of bringing us all together from across the country, to then be able to take invention education back into our states. And we're going to get a chance to hear from the Lemelson Foundation, but wanted to let you know that not only are they our sponsor for this event, but they also have been very critical to, I think, I know the work that Oregon has been doing. And then also they have been very critical to exposing MESA USA to, I think, these ideas about invention education, and then that important intersection with equity. And so it's probably about a couple of years ago that we went to that many of the directors from the MESA states had an opportunity to attend a conference. We had an opportunity. It was the start of the conference, and our keynote at that time was Kamal Sinclair. And Kamal Sinclair, that name might be familiar to you because we've had an opportunity to hear from Kamal Sinclair at a virtual event that was hosted in December, I believe. I want to say that there were some staff that came together and talked about Kamal Sinclair's writing about this work about designing for equity. I think we did that work in about, if I'm not mistaken, October-ish, around that time frame. But the key question that really, I think, left us mesmerized was, what if we could engage our students in inventing equity, justice, beauty, and prosperity? And that's a deep question. That's a deep question. I don't know if we're going to kind of get to an answer on that, but I know that our Oregon colleagues are going to give us some great things to think about that I hope we're going to be able to gain from. And before I move on from here, I wanted to share a quick video that was put together that talks about the work that MESA USA is doing in regards to this. So I'm hoping everybody's going to be able to see this and be able to hear this as well.
MESA USA envisions a more equitable country where underrepresented students of color are empowered to achieve their dreams through mastery of STEM disciplines to create prosperity in our communities. MESA was founded over 50 years ago in California and adopted by 9 other states over the years. MESA USA is a consortium of the independent MESA state programs that collaborate to advance a collective vision and mission. Annually, MESA USA member programs serve approximately 50,000 students across the country.
Last year, a contingency of MESA state executive directors attended Lemelson's Invent Ed conference and were inspired by Kamal Sinclair's opening keynote address and her challenge to all to consider a world where we design for equity, justice, beauty, and prosperity. While MESA USA leadership and staff across the country have been focused on providing greater equity and access to academic and career pathways in STEM, the organizations had not yet engaged students in the work of invention for greater access. What if we challenged our students to invent equity?
As an alliance, we have held 2 virtual convenings to extend the focus of our work from MESA leadership to our MESA advisors who lead our students through this work. In August, approximately 50 MESA staff gathered to explore the 7 chapters of Kamal Sinclair's Making a New Reality. In December, over 125 MESA staff and teachers gathered for our inaugural MESA USA National Conference on Designing for Equity. Kamal Sinclair served as keynote speaker, and each MESA state had the opportunity to share best practices around engaging students in the critical work of equity in design.
Our work is far from over. In June, we will gather virtually to showcase the work of our students at our National Engineering Design Competition. The competition will be followed by another national convening in which colleagues from Oregon MESA will provide professional development to our MESA advisors on a curriculum that emphasizes Lemelson's Pillars of Invention. This was an event that was planned for the summer of 2020, but had to be postponed due to the pandemic. The theme of the MESA USA National Competition has also been adjusted this year to be Designing for Equity, where students will invent a solution for addressing inequities in their clients' lives.
The COVID-19 pandemic and global unrest related to racial injustice have been stark reminders about the many areas of our society that could still benefit from an emphasis on equity, beauty, justice, and prosperity. MESA USA is proud of our 50-year history of working toward greater STEM equity for underrepresented students. However, we realize that our work calls on us to also engage our students in the work of designing a better and more equitable future for themselves and generations to come.
So you heard a little bit about that event that we were able to host on Monday and Tuesday, which is our National Engineering Design Competition. We wanted to let folks know that I think at lunch, we're going to remind everybody that we were very fortunate to work with our colleagues from New Mexico MESA, and Mr. Ray Gulick, who does a lot of website design for them, was able to put together an awesome website, which you'll find the link right there, nedc-mesausa.org, where you can actually go and see the results of our National Engineering Design Competition and each of the state teams' projects that they brought to this Designing for Equity challenge. And so I think that if we think about, and many of you know this as teachers who have been in those classrooms, who have been challenged to educate your students in a virtual setting, have been challenged to educate your students in hybrid settings, and then for many, I think, being able to then come back and still have some of those challenges of how do we reintegrate students as we bring them back to in person. What we're really proud of this site is that this site looks at students who were also going through a lot of challenges throughout that time, and who were able to kind of come up with these wonderful projects that were attempts to design for equity. And I'm excited about what the projects are going to look like as we get to year 2, year 3, as those projects are informed by what you're going to be learning about in these next couple of days. I think that that's going to be very, very exciting. At this point in time, I want to introduce to you our keynotes for this morning. And we're very, very fortunate. I mentioned Lemelson's involvement, the Lemelson Foundation's involvement as our sponsor for this event. And I want to recognize David Coronado. He is a program officer for Lemelson. He also was a former executive director for Oregon MESA. So I'm very glad to have him with us here today. And then I'm also glad to have Erin Tochin, who is here with us. She serves as director for the InventEd Network. And this is a network of individuals from across the country that are putting forth invention education, putting that in front of students and engaging them in this critical way that we're further integrating now into our MESA USA organization, or our MESA states across the country. So I'm very grateful to David and Erin, who MESA USA have been able to partner with already in terms of this work, and then for them to be able to give time this morning to come in and to lead us and to open up this convening. I'm very grateful to them, and had an opportunity to ask David for a favor. He's done this for us before, and so he has agreed to lead us through a roll call where he's going to go ahead and call out all of our MESA states. It's something that he has had an opportunity to do. I remember him doing it very well as Oregon hosted the MESA USA National Engineering Design Competition. So I'm going to turn it over to David, and then just as the slide says, as we have an opportunity to call out your state, make sure that MESA USA knows that you all are present, whether that's in the chat or if you want to unmute yourself. We'd love to kind of hear everybody from across the country. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. David Coronado.
Hey, Rudy, thank you all, MESA. It is great to be back with the MESA family. As Rudy said, many years working with MESA, and a MESA alum in middle school and high school out of my home state of California. So it's just great to be back amongst family today. I know this is a great tradition. It's important to know that we're all here and present from all our different MESA states. So I'm going to go ahead and call out. And at least when I was around, we were loud, waving hands, like Rudy said. We made sure that our state was known. So I'm just going to start the roll call then. All right. So first up, Grand Canyon State, Arizona. Where are you at?
Hey. Arizona.
Yeah.
Driving in a motorhome.
Oh, wow.
I'm not driving. I'm not driving. My husband's driving.
At least you're trying to cool off.
Yeah, Boise's hot as well. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna turn my camera off. We're here representing.
Yay! All right.
All right, moving on to California.
Yay!
Go in the house.
Oh, Southern California.
Oh, Dodgers. My hometown, Southern Cal.
California! Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. All right, Maryland.
Woo!
Okay.
Yay, Maryland!
Yay! Yeah.
Maryland! Yes.
Messing up Rudy's slides. We'll go back. Colorado.
Hey, I'm
Yay,
here.
Colorado's
Hey.
here.
Yay, Colorado!
Yeah, go Colorado!
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi. Good to see everybody.
All right, Rudy. All right, New Mexico.
Yay!
And Nevada. Okay, Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon. Oh yeah.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island in the house.
Hey, represent. That's awesome. Utah, the Beehive State. This is wonderful.
Yay, we're here. I'm here. Hello.
Hey, Utah.
Welcome from the man cave.
Impressive. Washington, our sister state. Oregon.
Go Washington!
Washington.
Go Seattle.
Hey, East Side!
Yes, East Side.
Woo! Go East
Puget
Side!
Sound.
Over here.
Tacoma.
All right, David, that concludes all of our states there. Look at the, it's great to kind of see everybody's face here as I kind of pull up all of these people. We want to welcome everybody, and I'm going to turn it back over to David. I've stopped sharing so that you all can share your presentation, and let's give a big round of applause to our keynote.
Hey, thank you all again. It's great. Again, like I said, it's great to be here amongst Mesa family for many years. I understand your work. I've seen it on both sides of student and working behind the scenes. I know what it takes to get to what you're doing. So I appreciate all your work and continue the fight, even in this year that has been unlike any other year that we've seen. Hopefully we won't, but thank you all for your efforts and continuing to support our students who are the most vulnerable and our future. So as an introduction, as Rudy said, been with MESA for years on that. On my professional side, after leaving MESA in Oregon, I moved on to the Lemelson Foundation, where I've been a program officer focusing on primary and secondary education here in the US and abroad. We're glad here as a foundation to be a proud sponsor of the Invention Ed, and this is pretty much what I've been doing, Invention Education and Invent10 Network, since I've left. So it's a pleasure, and I turn it over to my colleague, Erin.
Good morning, everyone. I am Erin Toshin. I'm the Network Director for InventEd, which, as Rudy noted, is a national network of people interested and engaged in invention education. I'll share a little bit more on InventEd a little bit later, but first, I just wanted to share my congratulations along with David on a successful year for Mason programs in a year like no other. I had the opportunity to watch some of the prize ceremony on Tuesday, and it was really great to hear about all the participants this last year. So jumping right in, we'd like to set the stage for our conversation this morning. We have a brief video to show you showcasing teacher perspectives on invention education and their reflections on the student experience.
Invention probably, gosh, if you had brought up the word a while back, somebody might have just said, oh, we don't do that.
I never understood what invention really actually meant until you actually see it happening right in front of you.
It's
not teaching them how to solve one problem, is teaching them the tools so that they can analyze, know what to do, and apply it to anything.
It gives students a chance to explore the world around them from outside of a textbook. And that's really important because we know that not all students learn the same way.
I think that this allows teachers to become less driven by content and more about process. They can really liberate themselves from knowing all the facts and being the sage on the stage to being one of a facilitator.
One of the fundamental interesting things about invention education is that students are going along on a journey with their teacher. They're both learning, they're both making mistakes.
We provide teachers the tools to engage in their content in a totally different way. We know that this isn't going to happen overnight for teachers, and so we work with partners and programs who develop curricula, as well as provide technical assistance and professional development to teachers around the country to really help them become the leaders in their school.
My teaching was transformed completely.
It lends back creativity. For me, it breathed life back into my practice.
I want to equip my students for those jobs of the future that I don't know what they are, but I need them to have the skills to adapt and to change.
Regardless of what career path that young people choose, invention education really does provide that framework for them as a life learning skill.
So to appreciate the promise of invention education, it's helpful to take a moment to consider the powerful role invention plays in our lives. It has been key to addressing our most important challenges. It's the engine that moves our society forward. It's brought us breakthroughs in health, advancements in technology, new ways to protect and preserve the world. It also results in the creation of new invention-based businesses, spurring job growth and expanding the economy. But while the power of invention is clear, the future that our kids will face is less so, as referenced on the video. So we can't predict what problems they'll need to solve or the technologies that they'll rely on. But by embracing the power of invention, we can help prepare our kids and our society to meet those unforeseen challenges of tomorrow. And as Kamal, Sinclair, and Rudy just referenced this morning, how can we support our students to invent for equity, justice, beauty, and prosperity? So all students have the capacity to invent, and all students should have the opportunity to build invention skills and mindset. Because whether they become inventors or not, the ability to think like inventors, to identify problems in the world and work to solve them is the best way we can prepare them for this unpredictable future. And this is exactly what invention education does. And we need it now more than ever. Over to you, David.
Sorry, I got trying to find the mute button. All right, so we really don't know what the future is going to hold for us. I mean, we always talk about what we know, we don't. The reality is that the future is changing so much. We're seeing climate change in Oregon is going to be 110 degrees, never been heard since 1896. We're facing global health disparities. I mean, we're seeing talent shortages. We saw COVID come up, right? These different viruses. We need a diversity of people attacking the problems of our world and here in the US. And I say the world as the US is part of this world, right? We need that diversity, because if we don't get the diversity and the richness of ideas from our young people, we will not meet the needs of tomorrow. We will not help them meet their needs for a better future. And we're likely to repeat the mistakes we've made in the past if we don't make a change for the future here. So I think about, what is it that we need then in order for students to be prepared for the future? As educators, I know that here we are not concerned with filling someone's job at a business. We're here because we want to make sure that all youth, whether they're youth of color or youth or low income, have the skills that they need for tomorrow. And in order to be prepared for that future and for them to be problem solvers in their own lives, they need to be agile thinkers. They need to be able to manage their environment, be able to find solutions to barriers in their personal life or out of professional life and help solve our society's issues. They have to be highly technical. They have to put together that STEM knowledge and real world knowledge and apply it in a way that makes sense to the world for them. And that is what we need in order for us to lead a better world, and including empathy. If we don't have empathy for the world, for each other, we are not going to move together as a society and really solve these complex issues for tomorrow. So it's why I got involved in invention education many years ago, starting in Oregon, which was this idea of the seeing students of, we need them to see the world in a different way. Oftentimes we're giving students the problem to solve, and often it's not what they want to solve for. So invention education offers a different way of being able to solve things they care about. And you all saw that in your design competition this year. They see the inequities, they see the world in a different way, and they're solving for it, and they want to solve it, but they're looking for that insight on how to solve it. So invention education over the years, I've seen it do that. It brings that teamwork. It really brings real world solving. It brings community into solving it together. And we need those young people to be ready to tackle those challenges. And that's what invention education can do. It opens the world in a way that, not that they have to be inventors, but all youth should be inventive in problem solving for themselves and for the future. And so that's why I've been involved in invention education for, I don't know, 16, 17 years now, because I do see what it can do for our communities and our young people, and hopefully, and we've even seen break cycles of poverty around it. So we've been working to kind of build this field around invention education. So one of the things I want to share with you is the invention education framework. We started off with this like very squishy concept of what is invention ed. And we began to work with other partners across the country and even around the world around putting the pen to paper to figure this out as a pedagogy and approach. So over 67, I think it's almost 70 contributors to this framework allowed us to think and merge our diverse ideas and perspectives and experience and to really map out what is invention ed. We see this as a guide, an intro guide for those who are getting involved in invention education to see what are the components that are required for it to really be the effective pedagogy and approach. And I really outlined that it is a pedagogy and approach, and it's not specific to one programs. Like I said, there was 60 contributing to this document, and we have over 150 museums, libraries, school districts, government agencies, you name it, who are implementing invention education in the regions and across the country, even around the world. But it really is around a pedagogy and approach. So this is an emerging field, so we're continuing to learn on how to best do this. So we will continue to add more to this. You can find this at inventioneducation.org. There's a lot of different resources there for you to connect with, including this framework. And our idea is that you can see what is the pedagogy approach to get this into the classrooms. There's different discrete areas that I'll go over in a second. And it's also an opportunity to think about when you compare, is this a really good invention ed program? Is it really addressing all the areas? It's not just one or two. It really takes looking at all of these different tenets. So looking at the framework, just diving a little bit deep into the values around what's built in invention ed. Won't spend time going too deep, encourage you to take a look at it. But we've identified 6 particular tenets that we find are consistent across all programs and our approach to getting there. They really are looking at, just to highlight a couple, a biggest difference here is that you are all familiar with engineering education, you're all familiar with STEM. That's where I came from too. But what I found over the years, we're talking with inventors, even working with students who are trying to solve problems they care about, is that problem identification, empathy, number 2, is actually one of the biggest barriers that young people have. When you're a low-income person and you don't see the world in the way that everyone's been telling you can't solve for it, there is a lot of work to be done to help students find those issues, understand them. I always talk to some inventors who say, hey, look, I'm trying to solve for climate change. It's like, well, how do you narrow that down? And so there's a lot of work that goes into it, and that's one of the biggest differences. It helps with problem identification in a real world setting of a problem of their choice. There's also the incorporation of entrepreneurship in here that really is thinking through, if you're gonna solve for something, it's not what you like, it's what the community needs. And so thinking through that as a total mindset shift. But there's a lot to build on from where you are already in your work that you can add an extra layer to it and be able to do invention education in your community or with your students. So just to highlight, we know this this framework isn't complete. There's a lot more work, and we are bringing in more people into our community to really bring their voice, their perspective, around building this pedagogy and approach in field. And so I thank you all for being interested and taking a dive into it. So yeah, that's where we are with Invention Ed, and I welcome you all to try it out. It's not as scary as you think. I've done it, and I can see the benefits that'll be really helpful to your communities.
So we'd like to issue a call to action today, if we may. People involved in the Invention Education community have seen the impacts of Invention Education for students and for teachers for many years. But to do this work successfully, to keep having these impacts, we need more people, more folks like you to join us. Next slide. Yeah. So Invent Ed was started by the Lemelson Foundation a little over 4 years ago with an annual convening. The first convening had about 25 partner organizations in attendance. And this year, we had about 100 organizations from across the country engaging in conversations to help build the field. Invent Ed is comprised of classroom teachers, informal educators, nonprofits, researchers, funders, other supporters and advocates who act as a coalition to focus on common goals for Invention Education. And we have 4 key goals for the network. First, grow and unite around a shared vision. Second, bring people together to learn and share resources. Third, support collaboration. And fourth, amplify Invention Education programs and partners. And we operationalize these goals in a few different ways. So we support working groups on Invention Education research and educator engagement. We incentivize collaboration through a grants program. We conduct community calls, webinars, and chats so that we're all learning and sharing resources and seeing each other in this virtual world. And this year, we're exploring new avenues to deepen engagement by hosting small convenings in between our annual convening, and then building out peer groups so that you're not only connected to the larger network, but you're also connecting to peers in your specific interests and work areas. So diving a little bit more into Invention Education, our community envisions a future in which Invention Education is mainstream and integrated across K-12 classrooms and programs nationally, and where intentional collaboration across diverse stakeholders leads to inclusive and supportive pathways for all students to engage in Invention Education. Inventing is a collaborative team effort, as we all know, and so is Invention Education. We really believe that we have more impact working as a coalition than any one person or organization could achieve. There's so much to learn from fellow colleagues. I know you'll all be diving into a deep learning session today. Whether you're new or old to Invention Education, there's so much to gain from having these conversations with each other and building that community. And so we really believe in the power of a network approach. So how can Invent Ed support you? It is truly a home base for learning about specialized programs, finding instructional resources, finding new tools to use in your practice, finding other educators and researchers who are interested in what you're doing. And it's a place to expand your knowledge. So we're building this field of practice together. And we really do need a diversity of voices to ensure Invention Education is accessible and inclusive for all students. So join us. Explore more at inventioneducation.org. You can see the link there. Take some time with the Invention Education framework to see how it might be a useful resource for you in the next year in your work with MESA. Sign up for updates. You can go onto the website and there's an opportunity to sign up for updates and stay updated on conversations in the network, where you can also meet like-minded colleagues who share your passion for supporting students. And as a final note, thank you for your work and for your dedication to students and for believing in the hope and empowerment that Invention Education can bring to students and to our world. Thanks very much.
I want to just thank both David and Erin for joining us, for introducing us to the Invention Education framework, and then also for us to know that this is there is a larger support system that Lemelson and the Invent Ed network facilitate, make available to us. And so just very grateful to both David and Aaron for being with us, for inspiring us as an organization. And I'm just really excited to see what our staff, what our teachers that are working directly with our students are going to do with Invention Education, and of course, ultimately, what our students will do to bring forth solutions to some of the equity challenges, to so many equity challenges that we have in front of us, and helping us to get to a better place. So again, thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Aaron. We greatly appreciate you being here. And with that, I want to turn it over to my colleagues from Oregon MESA. I just want to kind of, again, thank them. I will let you know that they have, just coming into some of their planning sessions, it's been amazing to see the work that they've been doing, really kind of planning minute to minute, so that every piece of this training will be something that will be meaningful, so that you'll be able to connect with colleagues from across the country, which I think is great. It kind of will allow us to get into that spirit of diversity of thought, diversity of perspective. And so I'm really grateful to my colleagues in Oregon MESA, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rudy. I think if some of my other colleagues, I'm Tong Zhang, the Executive Director of Oregon MESA. I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So Rudy, do you think that we should give everybody a quick break until 10, or what are your thoughts?
I think that's perfectly fine, because I think we've got some a good day of work ahead of us. So let's go ahead and ask everybody maybe to come back at 9:57. That'll give us,
that would be perfect,
before the hour, and that would be great.
Yeah, thank you all. So come back in exactly 10 minutes.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.